Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What do you do when no one else is watching? What do you do that makes you happy for no reason at all? What are you obsessed with? I'm Leslie Arfin, and I'm a writer, but I'm also a dancer, a painter, a vapor, a dollhouse enthusiast, and basically just an overall hobbyist. My podcast, Filling the Void, is all about what other people are fanatically into. We talk about hobbies, even if you don't have one.
Listen to Filling the Void on Tuesdays on the Arios Network and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile, the podcast where we walk home from the movies. Today, we're not walking home from the movies because we are walking around our neighbourhood as before we watch a movie.
You are
on the Netflix
absolutely butchering this.
Channels.
We're going to watch a movie on Netflix today, not the cinema. And we are going to watch Enola Holmes, which according to Netflix is the number one movie in the UK today.
You had to check your notes. Cathy's looking at her phone.
I keep forgetting the name of it. Like it doesn't roll off the tongue.
It's her name. It's the name of the person that was.
Well, I'm sure once we watch the movie, I'll remember it.
Okay.
But apparently, according to Netflix's imaginary stats that they won't tell anyone what they mean, it's number one in the UK today. Which could just mean that people are watching the first 30 seconds of it.
14 billion people watched it today.
So anyway, naturally, of course, now we're going to watch it. And it's basically a mystery film based on a series of books by Nancy Springer. And it's about the teenage sister of Sherlock Holmes. It's pretty much all we know about it. And Millie Bobby Brown is the star, who, of course, we know from Stranger Things, also on Netflix. So I'm
also starring Henry Cavill as Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, awesome!
And Sam Claflin as Mycroft Holmes.
And Sam Claflin was just in that other Netflix thing we watched.
Yeah, it's almost like an algorithm made this movie.
He was in that kind of time-travelling live, wedding, repeat.
Love, wedding, repeat.
Yeah.
A title that was constructed by an algorithm as well.
Exactly. And then, of course, we absolutely love Henry Cavill in this podcast. I didn't realise he was in it. Yay! I love him. So yeah, interested to see it. Don't have much to say about it. I did read one interesting fact. Do you want to know about who the director is?
Sure.
Harry Bradbeer, better known for his work on Fleabag and Killing Eve. So that suggests that this is going to be not your average tween movie, hopefully.
Yeah, they're quite punchy.
Yeah, and I'm really punchy, and I'm really interested to see Millie Bobby Brown because we only know her from Stranger Things, and like she's brilliant in Stranger Things, but you know when you only know someone as one very specific, unusual character, it's really hard to picture them doing anything else. So I'm absolutely dying to see what she's like. I'm presuming she's really good, but I actually can't picture her being anything except 11.
I thought you meant the age, but yeah, that's the name of the character, isn't it? Yeah.
And then, like, we felt so bad for her. Look, we did a massive review of the last season of Stranger Things over on our Patreon, but, like, we were horrified for this poor actress. She spent the entire last season just having to snog Mike. Like, that's all she did. It was an awful thing to do to a young actress.
Well, you know,
and it was a shit thing to do with your best character.
Finn Wolfhard is like a teen heartthrob, though.
Yeah, but it was just so boring. Every time we cut to them, they were just kissing, and we were like,
"It's a boring season."
You've like the coolest, like, young actress of her generation, and this is what she's doing. So I'm so pleased to see her starring in this movie. And yeah, number one movie.
Yeah, she deserves a shot at having her own.
She deserves a shot. I mean, she's really been hard done by, you know, from all the millions of dollars she's made.
Give her a shot. Give the girl a chance. She needs.
In fact, I think she is one of the top earners on Stranger Things, isn't she?
Surely.
Surprisingly, yeah.
All right.
Okay, so off to watch. What's it called again?
It's God. Check your notes.
It's called Little Sister Holmes.
Little Sister Holmes. All right.
Okay.
See you guys in however long it takes to watch this.
My mother named me Enola, which backwards spells alone. And yet, we were always together. And it was wonderful. She was my whole world. Which leads me on to the second thing you need to know. A week ago, I awoke. Mother? To find that my mother was missing, and she did not return. I'm presently on the way to collect my brothers, Mycroft and Sherlock. Yes, Sherlock Holmes. The famous detective, my genius brother. He will have all the answers.
Enola. Where's your hat and your gloves?
Well, I have a hat. Just makes my head itch. And I have no gloves.
My God.
A wild woman brought up a wild child. Who will make her acceptable for society? She seems intelligent.
There are two paths you can take, Enola. Yours, or the path others choose for you.
It is time to find my mother. The game is afoot.
Right, we're back. We watched that movie. We're out for a walk now, pushing a buggy along the river. It's a lovely day.
It is lovely.
And I quite enjoyed that movie.
I really enjoyed it.
Bit of a romp.
It was really fun. And she was like, I mean, we knew she was good in Stranger Things.
Oh,
she's unbelievable.
The glue of this movie.
Is like, she's full of energy. She's really funny, and she's like a very physical like force in the movie. Like I felt like she actually drove the whole film. Like if she wasn't in it, it would have actually felt different.
Yeah, the film,
like she's actually a star in this movie. It's not like
on her.
You couldn't just be like, oh, slot in another actress. Like I feel like she made it. And it was interesting that we read that the director of Fleabag directed it, because it felt like a bit of Fleabag.
Oh, because there's a lot of breaking the fourth wall and talking to the camera.
Yeah, and the kind of tone of it being quite quirky, and you know, not a million miles away from, because I mentioned that he had also directed some Killing Eve, and Killing Eve has some similar elements of this where like they really take in the detail and the joy of like costumes and people disguising themselves, and like the intrinsic fun in something like that. And I feel like this movie did that really well. Like it's quite astounding that she's the star of this movie, right? But like Henry Cavill's in it, as we mentioned, and we didn't even know Helena Bonham Carter is in it as her mother, and she manages to be like the core of the movie. They don't, when she's in scenes with them, she's still the star.
Yeah,
like that's quite something. And it was a good mystery, wasn't it?
It's very much, it's it's a teen, it's kind of aimed at teens, I felt, or at least I feel like this would really hammer home with a young audience.
It's like a really
but it's
good
kind of family
movie.
friendly. Yeah, it's good.
And I think like for anyone who doesn't know what it's about, it's basically
no spoilers here as always.
No
Spoiler
spoilers.
Street comes later.
She's the sister of Sherlock Holmes. He's like 20 years older than her, and she's like brilliant at solving mysteries in her own right, and that's kind of all we'll say on the plot. But I've actually really enjoyed the mystery stuff.
Yeah, and we'll talk more to that later.
Yeah.
But what did you think of... I agree with you. Millie Bobby Brown is just a brilliant, fun performer here. And, like, she's also... When you see her... She's got kind of a foil in this / love interest kind of character.
Yeah.
And... when you see her performing against him, you realise kind of just how good she is.
Yeah.
Not that no dissing that guy as such, but she really just outshines.
She really does, but I actually felt like that this movie was really trying to be female centered and turn traditional narratives on their head, and like
it's the core theme of the movie.
She's repeatedly the one kind of rescuing him, and she's the one in charge. So I don't know necessarily if I think it was intentional that she would completely outshine him anyway. So probably the actor may have never stood a chance in the first place, but also it's her movie and it wouldn't have been appropriate for him to ever outshine her in a scene. But I really do enjoy. I really enjoyed that they did have feminist issues at the core of it, in the sense of, you know, it's kind of centered around the suffragette movement, and there's like
and reform,
and her older brother's trying to control her and tell her how she should act. Yeah,
it's very much about the this transitionary time for Western civilization centered around London, and the sort of expected role of women versus sort of individualism, and you kind of get that theme from the very beginning, because it's almost like you said, it's almost like one of those survivalist sort of children. You know, she's a child raised outside of society by a sort of a mom with a different sort of viewpoint.
Yeah, I was thinking because I had started watching this other show called 2 Weeks to Live, which stars Maisie Williams, who is obviously very well known as being like the child star of Game of Thrones. And then 2 Weeks to Live is like Maisie Williams' mother, who's played by Cyan Shepherd, who is from Fleabag, now that I come to put all this together.
Connecting all the
is
dots.
like teaches her daughter how to live outside of society in our day and age and like fend for herself. And obviously Enola Holmes is set in Victorian England, and her mother Helen Bonham Carter is teaching her these things. So I was like, this is weird, because I had literally just watched 2 Weeks to Live like the day before.
It was a bit like Hannah as well, that kind of plot.
Yeah, and like I really like that, and I particularly love like the fact that her brother is Mycroft, who I had never heard of, and Sherlock are like...
Yeah, Mycroft's part of the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle sort of canon.
Right, yeah, and I didn't know him. And he's like trying to send her to like this finishing school and like basically control her. And then the finishing school is run by Fiona Shaw, who is of course...
Oh, she's great fun.
In
who's playing the same role she did in Three Men and a Little
That's
Lady.
What I was thinking. And she's in Killing Eve.
Exactly
so
the
this
same.
is all getting very incestuous now, like. So I'm genuinely surprised Phoebe Waller-Bridge didn't pop up somewhere. And I actually mean all of that
Probably too busy.
As a great...
She writes everything.
Yeah, I mean that as a great compliment, by the way, to have all these things working together. I totally recommend it, and I really recommend it as family viewing. It also, we were laughing because it's made by Netflix, right, to be seen on Netflix. Whereas a lot of other movies have come out this summer that have ended up on VOD release because they couldn't go out in cinema. But this is probably the most cinematically like expensive, beautiful looking movie I've seen on Netflix in a long time.
One of, yeah.
It's very expensive.
It's interesting though, because this same weekend we also saw Bill and Ted Face the Music in the cinemas, and I would have probably reversed the viewing the viewing platforms
100%.
for these. I'd rather have watched that on TV.
And this
at
in the
leisure.
cinema?
Yeah.
100%. Like this, like the amount of money they must have spent on recreating all these scenes of Victorian England, and like it's interesting because it's made like it's based on a series of books, and like presumably they're going to make more. And like I was saying to Dave as we were watching it, they should have just shot 2 back to back. Like to put all this together costs so much money. Like a period drama like this. They should have just kind of assumed it would do really well and just like kept filming, basically, like, almost like a TV series.
Yeah.
Because, well, in a COVID world now things are very difficult, but also you've such a huge cast, as we mentioned, like Henry Cavill and Helena Bonham Carter. Like, how do you get them all back together? But then the more I think about it, I feel like subsequent movies...
Pop them in and out.
Subsequent movies, like this is her origin story, but now that she's established as the girl detective...
Yeah, they're supporting players.
Yeah, they don't need to be in it. And I love, by the way, girl detective as a genre, absolutely love. Like Nancy Drew is my jam.
Veronica Mars,
love. So basically, I think this is a brilliant take on that genre, and I love how they played with the Sherlock Holmes stuff. And I think she is like... future Meryl Streep.
She's a standout. She can. I'd absolutely show up for more of these movies.
Yeah, 100%. I'd watch more. They probably would have diminishing returns. Like by the 5th one, you'd be like, "Listen, I'm done with Enola Holmes."
What did you think of Henry Cavill as Sherlock Holmes?
I loved him because I've never actually fancied Sherlock before, but I do now.
Okay, that's all you got to say in it.
All I got to say.
I don't think he's appropriate casting for Sherlock Holmes. And I'll show up for Henry Cavill any day, and I do fancy him because he's just the most handsome man alive. But he doesn't. I didn't see Sherlock there. Do you know what I mean?
It wasn't Sherlock's movie though. It was Enola's movie.
No, that's fine. I'm not disputing that. But he didn't seem like Sherlock Holmes to me. He's too buff. He's too big.
The buffiness was slightly odd. I'm like, sorry, just Sherlock Holmes go to a gym in Victorian England for 8 hours a day and lift weights.
Sherlock Holmes is supposed to be this like introverted, drug-addled. Shutting, not this like ridiculously handsome, like debonair, charming. And
maybe if you switch opium for like roids, and that's what this one takes.
I don't buy him.
I totally forgot Sherlock Holmes was on drugs.
However, he does fit this period. Like Henry Cavill looks good in the 19th century. Man, he wears those clothes well.
Looks good in everything.
Yeah, I'm not dismissing his. He's also just like a brilliant screen presence, and I liked
him and her together. I thought they had brilliant chemistry.
Yeah, I think I totally agree.
Brilliant chemistry.
They had great chemistry, and they're kind of the emotional core of the movie. but he's not. He just can't really pull off Sherlock Holmes. I'm sorry.
No, he can pull it off. The only thing that I agree with you on is his physique is slightly off for an opiate addicted man in Victorian England.
But I tell you what, though, I thought Sam Claflin was a real surprise as Mycroft, and he is absolutely like chomping down on every bit of scenery he can find and twirling his ridiculously long mustache.
I think he's really good. Like I really like him.
He was fun.
But I think his performance was too obvious. I think
but that's
he's very
fine.
obvious casting. I think Henry Cavill as Sherlock was like surprising casting.
Yeah, but surprising. It was a bit of a gamble, perhaps, but doesn't really pay off, if you ask me.
Never
Whereas
a gamble.
Sam
Cavill
Claflin is this sort of like traditional conservative villain. I thought he was like an absolute joy.
And Helena Bonham Carter, by her standards, was a very understated performance.
yeah, sure.
She was really good.
True. Yeah, she was. When we go to Spoiler Street, have we got anything else to add?
Oh, I had
Total
one other thing
recommend.
to add. Total recommend. And what I really liked about this movie as well is that so often when you watch movies set in the past in England, it's just all white people in the movies, right? Which we know to be untrue. England was not a country populated by only white people. And this movie actually has like lots of people of colour in it, and it just felt more realistic. You had like Asian people, you had black people, you had people who looked different from what we often see when we watch things like, say, Downton Abbey or things set further than that, like around Queen Victoria or whatever. So I thought that was really good, actually. And notable, because it's not what you expect to see in these movies generally, and it's the right thing that should be there, because it's just ridiculous how we always get peddled this weird fantasy around what people in England used to look like. So I really enjoyed that, and I also just really enjoyed then seeing, like, Dave and I are, relatively ignorant to like Victorian British politics. So I really enjoyed all the stuff around like the House of the Lords and the votes and stuff. Like I felt like that was very compelling. The political
the Reformation
side.
Bill, which was a real thing.
I genuinely found it compelling, and I feel like this is a good movie in terms of. Obviously the acting's brilliant, the story's really good, but it's also trying to be a good movie and trying to illustrate some things that often these movies would ignore.
Kind of got something to say and something about it. I mean, it's like it's painting in broad strokes, but it's also like
kind of like, whoa, we're a feminist movie, but I don't mind that. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So total recommend. But now we are going on to Spoiler Street for Alone Holmes.
Before we do that, though, actually, let's thank some of the new patrons over on our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Cinemiles. So thank you to Tom H, to Lee Beckett, to John O'Callaghan, to Kai Williams, Stephen Larkin and Derek Carney, to name a few. Thank you so much for generously joining our Patreon page and signing up for our extra bonus podcast, The Cinemile High Club.
And we've had so much fun this one that we've been watching. We did a spy movie poll and the winner was The Lives of Others, which we've just posted a review on, which was awesome. Loads of fun over on Patreon, watching amazing movies. But now, Spoiler Street. Is there much to spoil on Alone Holmes?
Alone Holmes. I'd like to talk a bit about sort of the plot, because the plot doesn't really hold together when you think of the actual, like, what was her mother up to, for instance. So like,
yeah, the mother stuff was odd. Like
the little sort of details don't really make sense for a lot of the characters. So the mother leaves at the beginning, fine, and she has her reason. Sounds like she has to go into hiding because she's a suffragette sort of activist, but she hides the money for Enola behind a series of like intricate clues instead of just giving her the money as you abandon your child. There's no actual reason to hide it behind
unless she thought
a picture frame, because
she thought it was kind of implied, but it was very thin and not very well explained, that Helena Bonham Carter thought she was in some form of danger. So maybe she thought some like men would come to the house during the night and like take the money. Like maybe she thought
But then,
she
like,
left Enola that there could be a chance that someone else could find it, though that didn't really feel like that.
But then just slip it under Enola's pillow, so she finds it immediately. Like it didn't make sense unless the mother had a reason she only wanted Enola to see it, which is fine. But that just would have been a huge shortcut. Like, she made it more elaborate.
But it was fun watching Enola figure it all out, and it taught us how Enola thinks and how her mother thinks.
Oh,
early on.
100%. Like, I'm not disputing that, but you need to have like the that's the mechanics of what the plot, but the actual like foundation of the plot doesn't make sense. Doesn't hold up to any scrutiny.
Yeah,
as
we
soon
were
as you
just
start
like
analysing.
What I really enjoyed is that when Sherlock arrived, then he started looking at the chrysanthemums too. Like, what was really fun is that Sherlock was always a step behind Enola,
Yeah,
which I really enjoyed.
And they sort of play that as a real good punchline when Inspector Lestrade gives him the thing at the end. Why were you late? So your sister already beat you to it by half an hour. Or something.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I agree. Like sometimes, like once or twice, I was actually like, wait, what's the mystery? I know she's looking for her mom, but that can't be the only mystery.
It was about the Duke of what's his name.
But it was clever when I think they tied him in really well together. Like, they tied his plot in really well.
Yeah.
How turned out she needed to kind of help him.
That was the main case, really. Like,
yeah.
the mother thing feels like that's the thing they're building up for the long-running series.
Well, apparently the book series is based on, like, is her as a girl detective is, like, she does missing persons.
Oh, okay.
So so there was like 2 missing persons in this movie, right?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, like, you know, the scene when she arrives at the train station and she's like dressed like a boy, and she's like in the train and all that, and she meets him, and then they like have this kind of train escape. I really enjoyed that whole sequence, and that felt, when she was dressed up as the boy and how she was acting, it felt like very Killing Eve.
Okay.
Yeah, weirdly so, and I just think I really enjoyed like watching her have so much fun, because like in Stranger Things, like she has got a very depressing role usually.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's like she's off the leash here, because it is. 11 is very like.
11's hardcore.
Understandably, like dour and introverted.
Either, like, having a terrible life, like before she met the gang, or like having to spend a whole movie or a series kissing Mike.
up with Mike.
She has like no good happening her. So yeah, I think like I agree that like some of the detectives, like some of that stuff was like a little bit silly, and we were like, why is it happening? But then we kind of enjoyed it.
It's
when
fine.
It
Look, I'm not here to like pick the thing apart.
What about the twist where the granny was the one trying to kill the Lord?
That got
me.
That
was fun.
I didn't see that coming.
That was a good twist.
Yeah.
And I love the way then Sherlock Holmes like does it with a flourish, and like Enola did it ages ago. So yeah, that was really
been
fun.
there, done that.
And I really liked that like repeatedly Enola was the one saving the boy. And I know that is, you could say it's a bit on the nose, but it's actually but also good to have something different.
But what I liked about that was she wasn't just saving him in terms of like her wits and outsmarting things, but she was like physically superior.
Oh yeah, she's a brilliant fighter.
She's just a badass fighter, and like taking on a fully grown man.
I really liked her fight scenes with the man, and that's when I was like, I've just watched this in that 2 weeks to live thing. It's like weird. They're very parallel. It's very
and
odd.
They're both. I haven't seen 2 Weeks to Live, but they're also another parallel is that they're both child stars of enormous science fiction and fantasy properties. I literally said that
in the intro.
You didn't say specifically that.
I said. You
said yeah, she's from Game of Thrones. I'm just I'm drawing the line between the two.
Okay, thank you.
God, sorry. Jesus, the temperature just went down a few degrees. So, anything else specifically you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I just think we really enjoyed it, didn't we? And like, we just kept saying, this looks lovely. Like, it was a treat. It was not as good as I was expecting it to be, albeit I knew it had good pedigree. And I wish we'd seen it in the cinema.
I will say we didn't I thought we'd get a bit more when she goes to the sort of school for finishing women with Fiona Shaw. Like, that just felt like a bit of a dead-end plot. That felt like something that in the book would have been like 10 chapters long and would have had loads of incidents.
It felt like something like...
it felt like a footnote here.
This book I used to read when I was little, or I used to read a couple of different books actually. One was called The Worst Witch, and one was called The Naughtiest Girl in School. And I felt like it drew heavily on those books. And they were really fun of you, like the mischievous or accidentally badly behaved girls in these environments. But to be honest, I think it would have been boring, like if they'd gone down that road too much here. Like, we get it. She's sent to a finishing school. It's not the right place for her to be. And I think they spent enough time there, and it's only because it was Fiona Shaw we were probably expecting it to be more, because
but nothing really happens her there.
Yeah, nothing.
Do you know what I mean? It just felt like, and in fact, this movie is 2 hours long, and I kind of felt like it could have been a punchier 1 hour 40 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
But do you not think though that the finishing school stuff was actually very compelling when you think of this is what Mycroft was like, this is how a woman should be. And we briefly got a view of you're in school to learn how to sew and cook for your children, to be a good wife and to keep your mouth shut. Like Fiona Shaw said, like, when you laugh, you put your hand in front of your mouth and you like go hee 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 hee, and that's it. So it was like, it was kind of an interesting...
That's how you laugh, incidentally.
It was like an interesting window into like what was expected of her, and like Mycroft came across very poorly in that's what he was pushing her to do. And then I really liked that Sherlock said, like, if we ever find her, I want her to be my ward. So I guess kind of the next movie will be, you know, some level of her still being on the run, maybe.
I like that whole plot about Sherlock being this kind of completely analytical and detached person. You know, the sort of martial arts instructor lady that they both meet with the teapot in the cafe.
Yeah, I loved her.
She absolutely like takes down Sherlock and says, you see people as clues, you're not interested in like changing the world. I liked that sort of that critique of him as this cold, analytical, aloof character, and I felt like Henry Cavill kind of pulls that off, and then the emotional journey for him at the end resulting in what you said. So, you know, I'll take her as a ward. That all felt like I really liked their relationship, and that was kind of the core of it.
It's a powerful political message to have in a movie like this, which is like, people who are in power and who benefit from the current structures of power are the ones who don't want it to change.
Yeah.
And that's actually a very powerful message to have in this kind of family movie. And that's what I was saying when I think it's a very good movie, because I think they're really trying, in their own way and within the context of this movie, to challenge some notions that people might have.
Yeah.
And I genuinely found that, you know, thought-provoking.
I agree. I think it's kind of punching above its weight a little bit. And it's swinging for the fences. So
and I think I really admire the slate of stuff, some of the stuff Netflix is doing at the moment, like with that, for example. And you know, people who make things for Netflix often say that they're given a lot of freedom, and not necessarily given with other like movie studios or whatever. Because that's something there's a couple of lines in this that could have just been taken out if it was getting that cinematic release.
Yeah.
And similarly, like for example, The Social Dilemma, which we've just watched, throws up, you know, a lot of like Netflix are really challenging the certain systems there with that documentary, and they have a wide reach for people to watch it. So I admire what they're doing. I was impressed by this on multiple levels.
And another thing to shout out is we noticed in the credits written by Jack Thorne, who wrote, you know, is experienced in this field not only because he adapted his Dark Materials for BBC and HBO recently, another feisty, headstrong female protagonist.
Yeah.
And he's clearly very good at adapting things, and also has experience, did the Harry Potter play with.
Yeah, which we loved actually. It's interesting though, you'd almost have expected with a movie like this about a girl with books written by a woman that they would have had either a female director or writer behind it. So I thought that was interesting, and I wonder if like some of the suffragette
opportunity
stuff
maybe.
Some of the suffragette stuff was like a tiny little bit clunky.
But it also
might
doesn't
have been
feel
handled better by a woman.
But it did feel like, I mean, well, you tell me. I didn't. Clearly male influence behind the scenes, but didn't feel like overly male focused.
No,
or
not
like,
at all. No, she was 100% the star of it, and I actually think they both did a brilliant job. It's just unusual, I think, for an adaptation like that for them not to have had a woman involved.
Yeah, true.
But they both did a really good job.
And actually, with the few kind of actual scenes we do get with Millie Bobby Brown and Helena Bonham Carter, when they do show up together, I really bought their relationship.
I thought they were amazing.
Particularly at the end. I thought that and actually brought some genuine emotion to me.
And I did think like it must be really difficult for someone like Millie Bobby Brown. Okay, I know she's like a bit of a superstar from Stranger Things, but like to suddenly like have to meet like Helena Bonham Carter and like work with her and Henry Cavill and Fiona Shaw, like these are really famous like huge actors, and for you to be that comfortable on screen with them and be that amazing
and hold your own, like.
Yeah. So I think I agree. I really liked her and Helena Bonham Carter, and sometimes Helena Bonham Carter can be like, you know, really over the top in the roles that it works. Like she's in a lot of Tim Burton movies, and for example in the Harry Potter movies. So it was nice to see her slightly in a different way as well. So I really enjoy that. So yeah, all round good one. Okay. Hopefully it was number 1 in the UK, and so people will listen to this episode. I feel like a lot of people will have been watching it.
Well, let us know if you did watch it and what you thought of it at The Cinemile on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, thecinemile@gmail.com, via the emails, and please leave us a review if you like. Leaving reviews for things.
We love
on
reviews.
Wherever you're listening to this.
Yeah.
And if it's your first time here, welcome. And do please subscribe and go back over our 200 plus episodes.
200 plus back catalogue.
Yeah.
And we've been doing our Patreon for a year and a half now. So you've
got about 50-ish episodes of movies and TV shows there to play around with.
So thanks everyone for listening, and see you soon.
Bye.
Come on.
Unlike most well-bred ladies, I was never taught to embroider. I was taught to watch and listen. I was taught to fight. I'm coming to find you, Mother.
You don't know how to embroider?
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What do you do when no one else is watching? What do you do that makes you happy for no reason at all? What are you obsessed with? I'm Leslie Arfin, and I'm a writer, but I'm also a dancer, a painter, a vapor, a dollhouse enthusiast, and basically just an overall hobbyist. My podcast, Filling the Void, is all about what other people are fanatically into. We talk about hobbies, even if you don't have one.
Listen to Filling the Void on Tuesdays on the Arios Network, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.